At Worth Media and your moderator for today, and I'm delighted to be joined by Worth columnist, CEO and founder of the agency Mauricio Umansky, founding member of the agency Farrah, Brittany, and private wealth advisor at UBS Kathleen Entwistle. Hi everyone.
Hey Juliet. Hi Maurice. Hi Farrah.
Hello.
So many of us have been impacted by this global health pandemic, and many are still responding and recovering from the crisis and the extraordinary and devastating impact it's had on human lives and families and businesses and industries and the economy. And our focus at Worth is to engage, convene and connect our community and partners with inspiring and informative content and conversations that are relevant to your lives and the world that we're now living in. Advice, support, insights, resources and connections. In this series, The Next Normal, Worth is looking ahead to what the world looks like after the current crisis passes and how specific businesses respond to the existing challenges, but also how they transform and adapt to this new normal or to this next normal. Our first session is on the real estate industry and how purchasing real estate is changing like never before. And we're delighted to have Mauricio, CEO and founder of the agency and Worth columnist, Farrah, Brittany, founding member of the agency, and Kathleen Entwistle, senior wealth advisor at UBS, to offer their perspective on the future of real estate. So before we get started, just a few housekeeping rules. This is a conversation and we do welcome questions from you. Attendees are muted on entry into this session. If for any reason you're not muted, please do go on mute if you're not speaking. However, you can use the chat function at the bottom of your screen and type in a question directly to me. I can see that and I can unmute you so that you can ask the question, or if you prefer to stay anonymous, that's totally fine, and we'll weave it into the dialogue as we go. This session is at capacity, which is great, but it does mean that we'll be recording this, and afterwards we'll be sharing it with anyone who did try to register but who was unable to join. So let's get started. Firstly, always like to do this at the start and check in with you all. Mauricio, Farrah, Kathy, Mauricio, let's start with you. How are you doing personally, and how are you managing your own well-being during these very unusual times?
See you and to be with you. I love being a collaborator on the Worth magazine, and the Worth family is absolutely an amazing family. Then you guys are developing a beautiful business and a beautiful platform where you're keeping a lot of people together, families together, and businesses together. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much. Personally, I'm sad to say that I'm been having a great time. It's a little embarrassing to say that, but the reality is that we are having a great time personally. You know, the first week and a half, 2 weeks, I have to admit, was a very, very difficult time. I had probably one of the most difficult times I've ever gone through. You know, having to make, fast and quick adjustments to the business, cutting budgets, furloughing people, layoffs, et cetera, and probably one of the most difficult times I've ever experienced in my entire life. I mean, the agency is still a small business, and I know everybody, and we're still relatively tight family. So really, really a difficult time on that end. Once we got past that and realized that, this is a normal and a new normal and something that the entire universe and globe is dealing with, my mindset changed. I went through a whole process of changing the mindset. And, from a personal perspective, as a family, we just decided to try to enjoy it and have fun. And I think as a lot of families have been doing, and it is what it is. I mean, those type of factors. I don't know if ever again in our lifetime will we ever see the entire globe go on pause. And I think that when you see that globe go on pause, it gives you a moment to slow down, to think, to enjoy the world, to enjoy your family, to enjoy your life, and to do all of those things that we all kind of miss. We're all in this rat race together, that we get up and we got to, we listen to all the motivational things that we all listen to every single day in order to go be extraordinary, and we kind of lose a little bit of focus on what is, sometimes life. And certainly when you wake up in the morning and you realize that rat race is, there's nobody getting ahead of you, that is a kind of a really interesting time. Did I get lost? Yeah. That is a very interesting time, and I think that those that take advantage of that are going to come out ahead. From a business perspective, I'm also very excited, because one of the things that we decided to do and took actions very early during this time is that we did realize that the world was going to be on pause, and that all businesses were going to be on pause for a period of time, an unknown period of time. But one of the things that we did is we quickly got on top of technology. The agency family, I don't think has ever been tighter. Have an opportunity to meet and talk with everybody around the world in terms of who we're dealing with, and it's just been an extraordinary time to get into their living rooms. As a company, we quickly decided that everything that we have been doing wrong, and every company does things wrong. I mean, if you don't admit that, then you're not, telling the truth, okay? The best companies in the world do things wrong. So as a company, we quickly said, well, this is a time for pause, and let's analyze everything we do wrong, and let's change operations. Let's change things. Let's come out of this thing in a much more efficient, better manner. And so that's also a very exciting time. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more, Juliet, in a minute. But yeah, that's where we're at.
We will. Thank you, Mauricio. I have to ask, and Kathy, I just want to check in with you. You both work with your family, right? So Kathy, you work with your son, and Mauricio, you work with your kids and your father as well. Kathy, how's it been for you, and how is it working and living with your colleague?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Mauricio, I love to hear what you said. I think that positive sort of move forward outlook is what we all need. So yes, Kevin is on our team at UBS, and it's been great having him and working with him. But now that everyone's on, work from home, he and my other 2 adult children and his wife moved back into the house. So there's 6 adults here now, and we have different rooms in the house that we're working from. It's actually a great perspective that Mauricio shared, because my one daughter is a chef, and she's been cooking incredible meals every night. My daughter-in-law is a certified yoga instructor, so she has been live streaming out of the basement, and we've all been taking classes with her. We've had hair getting French braided and all sorts of fun things happening, painting our nails. So I think it is important to embrace the things that you really want to be able to enjoy normally. And to Mauricio's point, I think that all really good leaders react quickly, make very strong decisions, and then move forward. And I think a lot about, I compare this, I guess, a little bit to Sully when he was flying the plane and the birds came in, and he had a very short period of time to make critical decisions, and being experienced and having that knowledge and that training, and he brought that all together in a split second to make a decision about the best way to provide the best outcome. And I think that's what we're seeing people like Mauricio and others do in order to save the business and come out of this and on the other side in a better place.
Thanks, Kathy. And personally check in with you as well. And what's it been like for you working with family during this time?
Family, well, first of all, it's amazing. We have the best time together, so it's been really fun. And I think the challenge has also been the best part. There are times where one person is super excited to talk business and talk work, and the other person is already done for their day or they're burnt out. And I think that's what happens when you don't have regular business hours. So, as family, we're expected to be a little more flexible and understanding. But at the same time, we're also hanging out together a lot more than ever. So there's great ideas that come when they wouldn't otherwise, and it's super fun.
you. And before we get into the topic of this conversation, Mauricio and Farrah, let's just take a step back. Just share a little bit about the agency, about the business, and just some of the background on founding it and what it is and what you do.
Sure, no problem. But first, I want to just invite myself over to Kathy's house as soon as the quarantine's over and do yoga and eat Michelin star chef food. I mean, I can't wait to get there, Kathy. The agency
Sounds
was
good.
founded almost. Yes. The agency was founded almost 9 years ago, and the idea was really it's a real estate firm. I mean, we don't reinvent anything. We're a real estate firm. We broker homes, primarily residential. We have a few different areas. We have the residential side, we have the new construction side, and we have the new development side. So it's primarily residential. We do have a small commercial division, but it's primarily a residential division. But one of the things that we started off was it was a company built by agents for agents. And the idea was that we would change the way that you sell real estate. And the truth is we have changed the way you sell real estate. I mean, most real estate companies today, even though we're tiny and we're little, we're fierce. And the truth is that all the big ones have actually copied us. And, what we changed is that real estate before was traditionally sold as 4 homes, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, granite countertops on the kitchen, and that's what you paid for. And we took a completely different style of selling, and we made it lifestyle, life experiences. Not only what you do in your home, but what you do in the neighborhood. Why do you want to live in a neighborhood? Why do you want to be part of a community? And today, while we're all in quarantine, I think this is becoming even more and more important, which is the home is becoming a lot more important to all of us than it ever was before. When you look at the millennials and kind of the way that they were all going in terms of their behavior, people were starting to look at, and I don't know if this is going to continue, but obviously finances has a lot to do with it. But, even wealthy millennials were looking at micro living and sharing spaces and sharing kitchens and sharing, all these type of different things. And I could definitely see a change in behavior going forward where that home really does become a lot more important. And I think that this, in a funny way, from, again, home, and when I talk about a home, I'm not talking about physically a home. I am talking about physically, but I'm also talking about metaphorically a home, which is where your family lives, where you have experiences, where you create memories. And that place is going to become, in my opinion, a lot more important than it was heading, which I personally didn't like the way it was heading, with all this micro living and let's rent everything and let's not create a home and, Uber everywhere, don't do anything, don't own anything, don't buy anything, so I'm not sure that was the right behavior for humans. So from that perspective, I'm kind of happy that that's where that's going. But yeah, so now the agency is growing. We want to become a global brand. We've about a year and a half ago, we started franchising. We have 37 shops around the country, including franchises. We treat our franchisees completely different than any other company. We don't even consider them franchisees. We're all part of one family. We all collaborate. We are all part of the same CRM system. We all go into the Agency Connect. There is zero difference between a franchisee and a company-owned shop at our company, and I think that's a great differentiator in terms of the way that we're running the company. I mean, they have as much transparency as any of our other shops. And one of the things that we're trying to do right now from a real estate perspective and a company's perspective is really open up the transparency even more, and where everybody is in, all for one and one for all. So I hope that answered your question.
It does, and thank you. And for those that have just joined, because I've just seen more and more people join, welcome to The Next Normal. This is a new series by Worth. Our first session is on the real estate industry and looking forward to how purchasing real estate is changing. We're delighted to have Mauricio Umansky, CEO and founder of the agency, Farrah Brittany, founding member of the agency, and Kathleen Entwistle, private wealth advisor at UBS, with us today. So thank you and welcome, everyone. So just wanted to move on to the impact that you have seen over the last couple of months. Farrah, how has it changed the way in which you're doing business on a day-to-day basis and how you're managing the team?
That we're in a completely different world now, of course, and we're all moving towards this more virtual kind of technology. I think that for being in a client-based business where it's all about relationships and face-to-face, this is a complete new norm. But it's fascinating to see how quickly everybody is adapting and how quickly everybody is collectively, accepting that this is the new norm and that we're all in this together. So we're doing things like, FaceTime showings and virtual tours and combining all of those things together. So you get the more lifestyle video combined with the more personal walkthrough that we're doing. And we're seeing that it's working in a sense. I mean, we just had a buyer get into escrow and they purchased a property completely sight unseen. We're scheduled to close very quickly. I mean, I don't think that's the norm, and we might have gotten lucky with that deal, but it is possible. So it just shows that you have to adapt to whatever the circumstances are and make it work, because life has to go on and real estate is essential, and it'll continue to be forever.
And Mauricio, the agency's been giving to the COVID-19 relief efforts, I think, as well, with some agents donating a portion of their commission to closing. How's that helping kind of give back to the community and during this time, and how's that impacting the company?
I mean, look, we're the agency has always been one of giving back. I mean, that's just part of our nature and part of our culture. And basically what we've done is all agents, I think, give a portion of their commission to a company called Give Back Homes primarily. And we build homes, we've always built homes for the needy, and primarily through Habitat for Humanity. However, now with COVID-19, we've changed that, and all of the money that we had in there has gone to purchasing, personal PPE, personal protection equipment, masks, all that kind of stuff. I know we've been donating it to different hospitals, and so we definitely made that change, and hopefully it helps. I mean, we're all in this thing together, and we can only, if everybody just does a little, a little turns into a lot. Again, we're a small company, so we can't change the world, but we can do our part.
Yeah, we certainly can. Kathy, I've got to ask, given your position and the current economic market conditions, how are you seeing the market affecting people's borrowing needs, and how is that in turn, do you think, impacting the real estate industry?
Sure. So our clients are, just like families of worth, and they have certain issues that they're thinking about. One of the things that I've seen, liquidity is a big topic, right? Back in 2008, and then again in the last 6 weeks or so, we've seen that liquidity is an issue for a lot of people, and having that cash available to you to do things that you need to do, whether it's emergency fund, liquid fund, it's critical. So with our clients, we've actually walked them through a process where you've got liquidity. We make sure that clients have that 6 to 12 months of liquidity available, whether it's liquid cash in the bank, or if it's a line of credit or emergency fund, that sort of thing. And we're also looking at, they do come to us a lot for real estate purchases, and whether it's financing mortgages or commercial property or things like that. And I would say, the rates are so fantastic that we're seeing a lot of our clients refinance right now into the lower rate. And if you think about it too, with all the money the government is spending right now, everybody's sort of thrown off by that. But if you think about it, the government's basically borrowing at 0%. So they can do so much more with that, with the ability to borrow at such a low cost. And we look at that for our clients too, like, you need to think about this. If you can save money and you can, do better, whether it's purchasing a piece of property. I'd love to hear from Mauricio and Farrah. There's a lot of talk about people wanting to leave, the city and come out to the suburbs. But certainly we try to coach our clients through that process and help them with their financing needs or whatever it may be, and make sure that they have a plan and it fits into the plan. That's really what it's all about.
And Mauricio, how are you seeing that to your customers and changes in behavior?
Tremendous. And yeah, lending right now is super important. I agree with Kathy. I mean, loan, a lot of banks are just doing even loan modifications for their, their top clients, which is a very simple thing to do. And clients get to save money, kind of relatively quickly on that. And that's kind of a relatively simple process without having to go through a full refi. And the banks the government is just pumping in money, which I'd love to know Kathy's opinion on this thing, because I have a whole opinion and I'm certainly not a banker. But when you're able to print that much money as a government and put it into the economy, generally speaking, you have tremendous inflation or you have a tremendous devaluation of your currency. However, in this particular case, because we are the entire globe is in the same fashion, the dollar just seems to be getting stronger versus weaker, and and we're certainly not seeing inflation yet. So, Kathy, do you have an opinion on that? And then I'll answer answer your question that you asked me regarding the behavior.
Sure.
I don't have an answer on that. I want to avoid it.
Okay, great. I like the back and forth. So actually, we do like TIPS, which are Treasury Inflation Protection Securities, and that will help for future inflation. It does make sense, right, that at some point with all this money getting pumped into the system, we would have some form of inflation. And also, so I've been doing a little bit of looking at TIPS and gold for clients, and I think that those are some good hedges for inflation.
That makes sense. So going back to your question, behavior, certainly in the short run, it's still too early to know. The conversation is everybody wants to leave urban cities. And, the short conversation is I don't want to live on the 90th floor, having to take 3 elevators in an elevator where there's a bunch of people and all of that stuff. That is the short. We are seeing right now, again, people can't really go see properties yet. They kind of can, depending on what state you live in, and there's certain, every state has different regulations right now in terms of what's essential, what's not essential, kind of vacant home and not vacant home, all of that stuff. So I'm not going to get into that conversation right now. But one of the things that we are definitely seeing is a tremendous amount of inquiry for rentals for this summer. People are definitely talking about not traveling to Europe and not making their summer trips that they have in the past, and they are definitely looking at a bunch of rentals and a lot of inquiries on that. I think it's still unknown as to whether they're going to be able to travel, so it's been hard to pull the trigger, but certainly people with, again, the upper echelon with private planes, the ultra high net worth individuals are definitely pulling the trigger on Malibu and Aspen and Park City and Phoenix and all of these areas that are important to people, whether it's the Caribbean or wherever, and so we're definitely seeing a lot of people looking for that space, big house, Lake Tahoe, like I want to rent my house on the lake for 3 months, right? And that's where we're seeing the behavior right now in terms of the trends from that perspective.
And Farrah and Mauricio, are you noticing any changes in requests to like the specific design of a house? So like, a lot of people love the kind of open plan, but if suddenly you're all working there as well, actually is open plan and that design less desirable right now?
Farrah, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I think that people are going to probably start looking, moving forward at what's more practical and more comfortable and more functional. They'll probably go away from the more glitz and glam and kind of, showcase museum quality houses, because who knows, what entertaining is going to be looking like in the future. Before, it was all about, this house is perfectly set up for entertainment. And now I think people might be looking at, okay, can I have 2 home offices here? How is my family going to actually live here? How's the kitchen if we're going to be cooking at home a lot? So I think there will definitely be a shift in what people look for, just a little more, even maybe simpler.
Yeah, I think the open floor plan was already, a lot of people were living in the floor plan. And from a lifestyle perspective, I think a lot of families were understanding that they really didn't have a place to disperse and have multiple spaces for the kids to leave or for the grandparents to visit or just for friends to have fun. And so I think that floor plan was already kind of trending out little by little. And I think that this quarantine stay at home is definitely going to make that change, and you're going to start seeing kind of more traditional floor plans again, and the home office amenity is obviously going to be critical, and I think we're all going to learn how to work from home office. I mean, obviously the conversation from a commercial real estate perspective is you know, what's going to happen with all the office space around the world, and our company's going to start shrinking their office needs and having more and more employees work at home, because I'm certainly seeing tremendous efficiencies out of our staff working at home, and I think a lot of people are seeing the same thing. So when you start seeing those efficiencies from working at home versus, you know, the 20-minute water cooler distraction, or you know, the distraction walking from the parking lot to the parking lot ideas, which ultimately end up at the parking lot and never get completed. You know, and you're seeing these type of efficiencies. Who knows what's going to happen with that?
What's your equivalent water cooler moment at home? I'm curious. Where do you all gather?
Well, we you know, my wife and I happen to have a very colonial home. I'm sure you guys have all seen it on television, and it's got a very traditional floor plan. So we actually have multiple rooms, and when we disperse in this house, we're lucky enough to not see each other. But we all like to gather. My kids actually like to gather in my office, which is what you're looking at right now, and you know, get a little bit of a feeling of it there. But yeah, my kids like to gather in the office. They find it cozy, and they all kind of come in here and gather in here. But we have a great family room off the kitchen, which closes, and I have a bar and a lounge, which is my favorite spot. I happen to like the bar and the lounge.
Just a reminder to people that they can use the chat function to message directly to me, Juliet Scott-Croxford, for any questions that we have. We have a question from David Polon, if we can unmute David, moving on to the future of real estate. David, are you there? We may have lost him. So the question is, how does the one sec. So the panel's opinion on the future, meaning is what you're experiencing right now just a moment in time, or do you think some of the changes that you've experienced are something that can continue, and this is now going to be the next normal? So things that you're using, like the virtual tours and the technology, do you see that as something that's going to continue?
Well, that's a setup question, because David Poulon is one of our great managers, and he manages our office in Arizona, in Phoenix, and he's doing an extraordinary job, and they have a little bit less looser, and they're actually doing great in sales right now, and they're doing amazing. So, but thanks, David, for that setup question. Look, right now is not the new norm, okay? I mean, we're living in a world where we're all learning of what to do, and you know, from a company's perspective, we're just trying to figure out if we're going to reach our you know, where the bottom is, right? And nobody knows where the bottom is or what's going to happen with pricing today. Pricing today is still a complete unknown factor in the U.S. Some people say 5%, some people say 20%, some people say nothing. What we do know is the amount of open orders and the volume, right? That's the only thing that we can actually measure right now. And it seems to be that across the board, whatever state we're operating in or wherever we are at, it seems to be that right around 50%, 53% of off volume is where we're starting to see kind of a stabilization and the bottom. And if we can understand the bottom, then we can plan and budget for the future, right? So we're just trying to, from our perspective, understand what that bottom is. But this is not going to be the new norm. I mean, we're certainly going to adapt a bunch of these things: Zoom, WebEx, FaceTime showings, virtual showings. I think real estate agents are going to get way better at not showing property to looky-loos, what we call looky-loos, which are people that are not really, buyers. And I think that you're going to see a tremendous improvement in efficiencies because of this and an adaptation because of this, but we're certainly not going to, this is not the new norm.
Okay, thank you. And I want to go to Jackie now. Jackie has a great question around commercial real estate. Jackie, are you there?
I wanted to ask, what's your view on commercial real estate? Are you going to, do you think people are still going to use office space? Is there going to be a reduction in office space? As I'm sure you guys have heard, Google just canceled 12 million square feet of office space. What's your view? Do you plan on still having as large of an office space, or do you think there's going to be a reduction in commercial real estate and the need for offices actually?
Yeah, my feeling on that is that as Google, and that's great news. I mean, not great news for commercial real estate, but that is accurate news. And I personally feel that there is going to be a reduction by all companies in office space, much more efficient office space, not necessarily renewals of space, and that's definitely going to be a sector that, in my opinion, right now is going to potentially get hurt.
Kathy, are you noticing from your clients and the people that you look after, is there any sort of change in behaviour in their perspective on real estate, commercial or private?
Yeah, yes and no. I think that, as Mauricio said, I think people are looking to stay more local. So they're looking for, they want to go out to their beach houses, or they want to rent, near vacation type areas. I'm unsure, we'll have to see where that goes. I know that from a company standpoint, my company, other companies, I've heard a lot around the fact that there is a lot more efficiency going on with work from home. And I think that came as a really big surprise to a lot of people. And it's very possible that there will be a lot more going towards work from home, and we won't have to, go to the office as much anymore. So I think that's to be determined, but probably a likely outcome, and it will be challenging to see, what that turns into. In terms of clients, it's interesting. I have some real estate clients, and one of them happened to make a great decision, unbeknownst that, COVID-19 was coming, and had sold off a ton of property back in January, and looks like a genius, but you just don't know what will happen. And if you have good properties that have rental, or they're in areas that are thriving, I think we're always going to want to get together and mix and mingle, and that's not going to go away. And how is that going to look and feel going forward? And I think that's part of the question too.
And Farrah and Mauricio, thoughts on platforms like Airbnb that obviously that they're in an interesting spot right now, and there's been lots of coverage around obviously people renting through them. How should they innovate? What are your thoughts around some of their the space that they're in right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, hospitality, right? And I think that that's going to be a critical thing that people, love to travel. They need to travel for work. Obviously not, we don't need to. I guess we just learned we actually don't need to, but we still need to. There's going to be tremendous innovations. There has to be. And they're going to have to, first of all, in the short run, that industry is going to be very hurt. First of all, a lot of people have problems with Airbnb anyway. A lot of communities have problems with Airbnb anyway, where they don't want Airbnb. They're starting to try to stop allowing the Airbnb client to rent to rent on dailies because of the messes it makes. But let's not even get into that. But all hospitality, all Airbnb, they're going to have to make very innovative moves. I think that we're going to have to look at the airline industry and look at HEPA filters, better filtration systems in all of the different buildings, particularly in hotels, particularly in Airbnb, high-end real estate. I think you're going to start seeing some, that environmentally protecting antibacterial stuff becoming a lot more important in amenities. There's some great systems out there on the air conditioning, on the water purification, on hard surfaces that you can use that bacteria can't live on as long. And so I think that hospitality is really going to have to take a hard look at that and changing the way they build, retrofitting some of their buildings and their rooms and their hotel rooms, their bathrooms. Servicing is going to become a much more important servicing, in terms of the housekeeping and staffing is going to have to become a lot more important on how you deal with that. So it's still unknown, but I would have to imagine, I know that us as a company, we're already talking about those conversations from the perspective of just reopening the office. And keep in mind that we do deal a lot with branded real estate, which I saw there was a question on that. So branded real estate, for those that don't know, meaning primarily hotels, whether it's a Mandarin Oriental or a Four Seasons or a Ritz-Carlton, and it's residential real estate that's branded because of the amenities that it services and all of that stuff. So I am in the hospitality industry somewhat, and I think that that's going to be the companies that jump on that and put the right message are going to be the best companies that will survive first and get a jump start on that. And I think that they really have to take a hard look at that.
Thank you. I also wanted to jump to, sorry, Farrah, what were you going to say?
I'm going to say that I think right now it's just still so fresh. So obviously everybody is super afraid of germs and all of that. But I think that, much like after 9/11, not to bring that up, but just when people said, oh, they're never going to fly again, and they're terrified of flying. And then, after some time goes by, people get back on planes, and then there's new, ways, precautions to go through the airports that are now, they've been our new norm. They've been our norm for the last almost 20 years. So I think much like that, there'll just have to be new things that are put in place by rental properties and hospitality industry, and we'll all just adapt to that.
I agree, and there's a question from Chris Rich, actually, just in a similar vein around the perspective from the real estate workforce. Chris, are you there? We'll unmute you.
Yes. Hi, Mauricio. My question is really around, the COVID-19 going on right now. Do you have any worries around it impacting the workforce? More so around the time that it's going to take for the economy to get back, as well as home sales.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about that. I think that, you've had a tremendous amount of layoffs. Unemployment is out of control. And, companies are going to, despite how much money the government is trying to give small businesses to pay for, payroll protection plans and to pay for all of these different things, there's only so much that can help and go around. And the companies are definitely feeling stress. I know we're having to adjust, and we're having to make our adjustments and rebudget and replan, and we are, and we'll survive. But from the workforce perspective, it's hard, man. It's I don't know if there's a fast solution to that, and I think it's going to have to just go to resilience, and people are just going to have to be try to do their best in terms of the business owners, the CEOs of the big companies, to try to rehire, to try to get the money back to their employees. That a lot of companies had to take payroll reductions, and try to get that back to their employees so that they can get going and have some sort of social responsibility, not only for the company but for the people. And I think that that's a critical piece. But the workforce is definitely going to be impacted without question.
And from the perspective of you, Farrah, and Mauricio, from the perspective as a realtor, and Kathy, from the perspective as a financial advisor, what would you advise for people trying to buy or sell a home right now?
I mean, well, from a financial advisor perspective, it's probably a little bit bigger picture. Does this make sense in the long term? We don't want anyone doing anything in the short term that they're going to regret. So you don't want to jump out of something or jump into something without thinking it through. I think what we're going to see are people who are thinking about buying that second home or transitioning out of a certain neighborhood into a different neighborhood. They'll follow up with those plans. We do have to think about the economy, though, too. Also, what their cash flow is going to look like when we have people, even the C-suite executives, they're maybe taking a reduction in their pay. There's lots of people being furloughed, so nobody wants to necessarily go out and be extravagant right now. So I think that's another issue to think about. It's more about what is your plan and where do you want to be, and then putting that into place. And yes, with mortgage rates so low, you can finance at a very low cost to yourself. So there's ways to do it, but I think it has to be in a plan. It can't be on the fly. That's my personal opinion.
Farrah, you want to attack it before me?
One size fits all. You can't really give advice to a blanket kind of statement. It has to be tailored to each individual person. There are some people that absolutely have to buy and have to sell right now because of their certain circumstances. And for those people, for buyers that have to buy right now, there are less people looking. There's less competition. So I have buyers that are super ready to go. And for sellers, it's the same. It's almost the same, that there is, if they have to sell, there is less competition because many sellers have pulled their properties off the market. So if that's what they have to do, then, they can make it work. And if not, there's also a ton of people that are in a holding pattern because they're fearful and they're uncertain and they're waiting to see how this all rides out. So you just kind of have to tailor advice to client based on their personal circumstances.
I mean, I
think that's great. That's great advice. Yeah, that was good. That was very good.
Yeah, so Farrah is 100% right. And the other thing that I'm seeing from a behavior perspective is that there's definitely, there's a lot of people that are unhappy with their homes, and now that they're living in them and actually using them and actually want to make a change. And so, I definitely agree with Kathy that something should not be done in a fast, irrational method. But, if you're buying a home and you're thinking long term and you're, you have to live. This is not an investment. This is your life. So you're investing in your life. So, is the market going to drop 10%? Is it going to go up 10%? Who knows? There's a lot of people that are going to stop moving around so much, that are just going to say, oh, I actually like my home and I actually want to be here and I'm not going to sell. So I predict we actually might see a smaller amount of supply and still a continuous amount of demand. There's a housing shortage in California, that's for sure. That the big question and the big factor is going to be the workforce, the money, the economy, and then how much. So that to me is still an unknown in terms of where we're going to end. The Dow is almost recovered all of its losses. The S&P has almost recovered all of its losses. So I'm not sure if I can give advice on that. The only advice I can give buyers and sellers is do what you need to do for your life. Interest rates are low. Today is a great time to take advantage of interest rates. We've talked about them being low for 10 years, but they're really low now. So, my opinion, and Kathy, I don't know what you think, but right now is a good time to go 30-year fixed, and not even worry about it, particularly if you're thinking long term. Don't go with a 7-year, interest-only loan where you don't know what's going to happen 7 years from now. It's not getting much lower, that we know, right? I
was going to say, so someone said, do you want to take a guess at what they'll be in 2 years' time? But it's not going to be much lower than it is now, right?
It can't be. Yeah, but by the same token, we said that oil couldn't be much lower, and they're paying you to take oil off their hands. So who knows? We'll have a negative interest rate soon. I don't know. Well, they'll start paying our mortgage. I don't know what's going to happen.
Kathy, I want to just sort of think about future and predictions and a bright spot for people to focus on, what are you hopeful for right now?
I guess I would say it's really about, your home is your heart. You want to think about where you want to be in the future. Are you happy where you are right now? I think a lot of people have found ways to revisit that happiness, and maybe there's other people out there that aren't so happy with their surroundings or where they are. And now's the time to say, let me create what is going to be good for me and my family and my future, and just go for it. Like, just put the plan in your head, and if you see it, eventually you can create it.
And do you think, Farrah and Mauricio, are you seeing a shift in people perhaps moving out of more densely populated areas and either flipping from for those that have multiple homes, flipping from primary to secondary home, or actually thinking, I want to move out of the city and into a less densely populated place?
Well, it's impossible to tell you what we're actually seeing in terms of happening. Like I said, volume is down 50 to 55%, right? So, and what's happening right now is really just needs. The conversation and the clients that are having the conversation and where it tends to look like the behavior is going is definitely in what you're saying, which is going to less dense, planning for going to less dense, planning on perhaps the second home being a drive-to destination, that if you're ever quarantined again, you can actually go, you live in New York and you can go to the Hamptons, or you can go to Greenwich, or you can go do something like that. In Los Angeles, it's Palm Desert or Palm Springs. Everybody has their drive-to destination, right? San Francisco, Lake Tahoe, Monterey, whatever, right? So I think a lot of people are definitely looking at that from a behavioral perspective. I'm just not sure. We're not seeing the action yet. Is what I'm trying to say.
And Farrah, a bright spot, what are you hopeful for in the future?
Just such a great opportunity for, like Mauricio said in the beginning, for people just to slow down. And I think that even though we're in this face-to-face business, some of my conversations that I've been having with clients over the phone have been even more substantial, more deep and than ever before, because we're not just trying to sell them stuff, we're just having normal human conversation about life. So I think that this has really opened people's eyes to, we don't need to be rushing at the pace that maybe we were before. Yes, we all want to get things done and kill it, but at the same time, there's just a little more empathy amongst people, which I think that makes me happy.
And Farrah, I have one another question from Jeff, who's a new agent starting his real estate career right now, and was saying, what's your advice for establishing new client relationships in this unique time where you're not able to necessarily move around in the way that you were before?
I think it is that not missing the boat and trying to tell everybody, it's a great time to buy, and call me if you want to buy right now, because we're in this crazy time. I think it is about building yourself as a brand, and even taking advantage of something like social media to post weekly videos, just letting people know what's going on, or just putting yourself out there as somebody that's likable and trustworthy. And that's something that you can do right now that can bring clients in the future, so without being overly salesy. And it's really about building that trust, I think.
Yep. Empathy.
And yeah, Mauricio, bring us to a close. Empathy is a great one. I think everyone needs to right now. Something that you're hopeful for and a bright spot that you're focusing on.
I mean, I something that I'm hopeful for. I am, hopeful for health, for continuous love, and for the country and for the world to. It's kind of corny, but to come together and and to realize that we are all one and one for all, because there's just so much politics, there's so much bullshit, there's so much stuff around the world that we all get into this competitive factor and all kinds of crazy things. And this is one thing that good or bad has brought the entire globe together, and we all realize that we are one small globe. And I just hope that when this is all over, that we don't lose sight of that.
I couldn't agree more. And we talked a lot about compassion and kindness during this time, and I think compassion, kindness, and empathy and perspective are all words that are so relevant and important right now. Mauricio, Farrah, and Kathy, thank you so much for an insightful and entertaining conversation, and thanks again to UBS, our sponsor. Thank you again, all of you, for joining us today. We hope you found it useful. Please do share any feedback with us. We'd love to hear your comments and any topics that you'd like us to cover in our future series. You can email us at community@worth.com. In next week's Next Normal series, we're joined by Cara Goldin, founder and CEO of Hint Water, and Kathy Entwistle at UBS to discuss the future of the food and beverage industry. Please register online at worth.com/events for this and all of our other events. And also remember to sign up to our weekly newsletter. Also check us out on Instagram at Worth Media. In the meantime, stay healthy and well and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.